Hey ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. As always, it is Nick here, back with your daily crypto news and analysis. And today we are going to be talking about Ripple and XRP, as well as the vast majority of crypto and finance. And I want to dive in. I want to start off with this video here from CoinDesk. And we do see the White House is to blame for a stall in the bipartisan stablecoin bills negotiations. Patrick McHenry says, we were closer than we've ever been. A few small but nonetheless important provisions stood between us and a deal. Listen closely to this.
There was a third party in this. Unfortunately, there was a third party in this negotiations that did not share that same sense of urgency, the White House. A bipartisan deal was within reach. We were closer than we've ever been. A few small but nonetheless important provisions stood between us and a deal.
And of course, everyone will play into this and say the White House is trying to kill crypto. They're trying to slow it down. They're trying to do this, trying to do that. You know, one thing that I do want to mention around this is that this is all by plan. A lot of this is all by plan. Regulations are on their way. Regulations will happen. And the space is going to continue to thrive. I said it over on Twitter going all the way back to July 11th. And I said, in my opinion, the Ripple versus SEC lawsuit has been planned since day one. October 2020, Brad Garlinghouse, we're asking for a level playing field, calling for a single national regulatory framework. February of 2023, FSB, IMF, and BIS are working on a global regulatory framework for crypto with the G20, soon to be released by July and September of this year, which we recently seen a release of this in July. And then also, December 2022, Ripple has the opportunity to comment on the international regulation of crypto asset activities with who? Oh yeah, that's right, the FSB. Meanwhile, they are still in a lawsuit, and XRP is a security, right? Laugh out loud, sure. In the Ripple response, we see the quote yet again, level playing field. A global regulatory framework will create a harmonized approach to crypto and ensure we don't cause more fragmentation in terms of regulations. The lawsuit against Ripple and XRP was intended to streamline crypto regulations. It also slowed the technology down for the infrastructure and standards to be put in place. And that's exactly what's happening with this as well. They are slowing it down. So what could happen? Well, so that all the other nations can move fast on crypto. And you might be saying, well, how does that benefit them at all? Well, first off, we have seen them attack crypto time and time again. And what they are trying to do is they are trying to implement the infrastructure. The FedNow service, for an example, was a huge one. The US has been far behind for a very long time. The infrastructure is getting put in place. Standardization needs to be put in place. But first, they need to cause a problem. What is that problem? Well, it's Russia. It's all these other nations moving fast on a CBDC. See, the US won't say that they are doing a CBDC yet until it gets to the point where they need to. They have no choice. That's what they're going to say. For an example, over here from Zero Hedge, we do see the BRICS won't kill the dollar. The US policy will. And you know what's funny about this? Is that it's kind of right on par with my thought process around this. Like, everyone thinks that the US dollar is dead, that the US is falling so far behind. But what if it's all by plan? What if they want this to happen? I've seen a lot of people looking at de-dollarization and that, you know, the US economy is finished and that the US dollar is never going to bounce back. Check this out from Bitcoin News. Robert Kiyosaki, for an example, says 41 nations will gang up in South Africa to de-dollarize the world, BRICS. So I seen this and I thought to myself, well, this is pretty interesting, right? Because we've been hearing this narrative push for probably about roughly over, a couple years now. It's been really big recently because as we do see CBDCs, we see pushback against the SWIFT system with the Russia, drama with, Russia getting sanctioned and they're cut off from SWIFT, all that kind of stuff. So it's been a very big accelerant for this, and it sparked a big debate on de-dollarization and the US dollar itself. Again, I talked about this over on Twitter. I said the dollar is dead. The US is doomed. The perfect problem and the perfect solution is being presented to the world all at once. The problem, 99% of the general public is being distracted. There are significant projects/solutions in this space that could easily make the global monetary system a lot more efficient and bring about a technological revolution like no other. I strongly believe de-dollarization, use of other settlement currencies/systems, BRICS expanding and developing new currencies is all an accelerant for the new system to rise. And it is, right? Like, this is the big problem. Everyone thinks that this is so bad for the US dollar. Ultimately speaking, check this out. Focus on the major connections with the IMF, XRP, XDC, XLM, blockchain/DLT, are going to be utilized. Some already are, but without scale. They are preparing, the infrastructure is being built. And check this out. So this was June of 2022, and during preeminence. In this, they talk about the dollar, and I included these tweets in a recent video. Actually, I've talked about this in past videos. The US dollar might slip, but it will continue to roll. The international monetary system may be at the threshold of significant change from a combination of economic, geopolitical, and technological forces. But it is an open question whether these forces will knock the US dollar off its pedestal as the dominant international currency. And then also over here, the new technologies will both help and hinder emerging market economies, with collateral effects that, coupled with other developments, in the end may enhance the dollar's dominance rather than erode it. This is what's going to happen. The US is going to source this technology, whether it be XRP, whether it be any other asset in the space. It does not matter, right? Private, public ledger, it does not matter. They will be utilizing blockchain and DLT technology because guess what? They need to. It's a competitive field right now. In fact, it's kind of like level the playing field, right? Like Brad Garlinghouse said, it's going to create a competitive market where they have no choice. And the US essentially is at that point right now almost. But we're still probably a few months away, probably maybe even a few years away. But this last one down here, right? This is very interesting. So this is a full-on quote. Although digital technologies enable new forms of money that could challenge fiat currencies and set off a new era of domestic and international currency competition, it is equally likely that these new forces will create more centralization, with some currencies accreting even more power and influence. In other words, many of these changes might reinforce rather than weaken the dollar's dominance. And also over here, as we do look at what's happening around this House Financial Services Committee, we do see over here from Zach Wong, the House Financial Services Committee is marking up the stablecoin bill, and there is drama. Lots of news is being made, but seemingly no one is paying attention. You can learn a ton by watching rare moments like this. Let's pull out some highlights in this thread. And the first one here is some very quick background. The HFSC is holding a markup on legislation that would make stablecoins federally regulated and usable by everyday businesses, financial institutions, and people. They are going to vote on the bill and amendments by members. The legislation would settle existential questions about the industry, such as the permissibility of financial institutions using public blockchains. Without this direction by Congress, the entire industry could be killed off tomorrow. Originally, Chair McHenry and RM Waters had hoped to come to a bipartisan deal on the legislation, but they revealed today that the White House was still holding out. Reporting this morning suggested that RM Waters and Dems wanted to postpone until September. Interesting, September. What are we waiting for on September? Oh yeah, that's right, the last update around this FSB, IMF, and BIS working paper in terms of that global regulatory framework. And then also, Chair McHenry has postponed this markup a few times already, from June to July 19th, then July 26th, then July 27th. This was a good signal previously, but now it's a bad sign. A vote today means there's no agreement and the bill won't become law unless something changes. With that context, here's what happened today. So first and foremost, we do see Maxine Waters wants Chair McHenry to postpone the markup until September. Here is the moment when her staff direct all Democrats to leave the room to try to prevent a quorum. Notable events, Chair McHenry mumbles giddy up under his breath. He knows what's coming. Democratic staffer directs Democrats to leave the room. Republicans notice Democrats leaving the room. Rep. Ann Wagner can be heard exclaiming, "I think she shouts, pathetic," at the departing Democrats. Senior Republican staffer counts the votes, realizes Republicans need 2 more members to enter the room to meet quorum. And there's a lot more updates around this, but here we have the delaying tactics, because after these videos, essentially there's like a lot of like nonsense within this. But here we have next delaying tactics until the next major event. RM Waters requests a roll call vote on the following procedural motions, usually handled by an informal voice vote. Whether to consider the bill. Bill is now being considered. Whether to table the bill. Stop considering it. Bill has not been tabled. Whether to make the clerk read the entire bill. Apparently, if the motion to make the clerk read the entire bill fails, a member can still ask the entire bill to be read, so the clerk is instructed to read the entire bill. Short interlude, is all this procedural stuff dumb? And no, this is superficially for show, but under the surface, it's a way for the parties to communicate, and it's deeply important. And again, like, as we look at everything happening around this, to me personally, I think that a lot of this is all nonsense. I think that September is a huge time frame in the market because it really does align with trade finance going live with regulations. And also, again, it really aligns with the FSB, the IMF, and the BIS working on this global regulatory framework. And remember, like, global regulations is 100% crucial because we can't have fragmentation in terms of regulations. Because if we do, then it's all a completely fragmented system. It's all broken. All these other different jurisdictions and nations will all have different regulatory approaches, making things a lot more complex than they need to be. And remember, right, like I even said in terms of 2025, right? Like 2025 is the big time frame. For an example, over here, I said, remember this tweet regarding Ripple and the SEC case? I broke down why I believe the XRP case was planned since day one. And now days later, we get the finalized FSB recommendations on a global regulatory framework. Look through the images and read my tweet regarding this. I find it very interesting that Ripple was able to comment/make recommendations regarding this framework while in the middle of a lawsuit. The best part about this document is that it confirms that the FSB wants to implement its recommendations worldwide by the end of 2025. Johnny Deaton 1 did mention that crypto regulations will take some time/even years and predicted 2025 would be his best guess. This is definitely interesting to note. And here we have the FSB will review the state of implementing its recommendations worldwide by the end of 2025. In September of 2023, this year, together with the IMF, it will deliver a joint report on the existing policies and regulatory issues to the G20. So there's a lot of things happening behind the scenes while everyone is distracted by these, bipartisan bills and these stablecoin bills. Like, there's a lot of nonsense out there, and you really need to pay attention to what's actually happening here. In terms of the level playing field, I think that all comes with regulations. And remember, even going back all the way to 2019, SBI CEO foresees Ripple's XRP adoption by all Japanese banks by 2025. Although that this is speculation, everything seems to align with, of course, 2025, and it's very, very interesting. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments below, though. If you guys did enjoy the video, definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on because of more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord down in the description below. So that you all have a beautiful day or a beautiful night, wherever you guys are in this beautiful world. That's been Nick. Peace out, guys.